Hi there, I'm Katie Cook from Portland's Culinary Workshop, and today we're going to be making your basic biscuits. You already have everything that we'll need for this recipe, likely around your house, so let's just jump right in and talk about what our ingredients are going to be today. First of all, I've got all-purpose flour, a little bit of sugar. Unsalted butter is the preference here. If you have salted butter, that's absolutely fine, or non-dairy. You just want to make sure that it's very, very cold. We'll also be using half and half, as well as baking powder as our leavener and a little bit of kosher salt. I like to measure out all of my ingredients on a scale to make sure that it's as accurate as possible. That's going to give you the most predictable results. Other equipment that you'll definitely need is a mixing bowl, a cheese grater, and a ring cutter. Bonus points if you have a bench scraper, a strainer for sifting your ingredients, as well as a pastry brush for the egg wash on the biscuits before they go into the oven. Now that we know exactly what we're going to be getting into, why don't we dive in over in our work area? So the first thing we're going to do here is sift our dry ingredients. We're going to add in our all-purpose flour. And we're sifting for a couple of reasons. We want to make sure we're getting out any impurities. This is also going to aerate our biscuit. We're then going to add sugar and the baking powder. I usually don't try to sift my kosher salt because the flakes are a little bit too big, but we like that because that means it's dissolving better into our food. And then you're going to mix your dry ingredients together so that they're all evenly incorporated. And then we're going to take out our cheese grater to grate our butter. Now the reason we're using this is that I don't have to go in with a knife and get all buttery and slippery and dangerous. And we're gonna get those nice pea-sized pieces that you're looking for in most biscuit recipes or biscuit method recipes like scones or pie dough. This is going to cut it apart for me, and then I can coat all of those individual pieces of butter in the flour. That's what makes the flaky layers for our biscuits. It's not about kneading the dough excessively to get that. It's about each of those individual pieces of cold butter are going to go directly from a solid to a steam once it goes into the oven. That's the reason why you need to have your ingredients cold, so you can skip that liquid stage of matter and go directly from solid to steam there. Now your hands are super hot. They're 98.6 degrees. So I'm going to coat my butter in the flour so that way the radiant heat from my hand isn't melting it as I work. And every time it starts to feel a little like slippery or slimy, I'm going to make sure that I toss it again. Now with cheese, it's really fun to kind of like get all of see if you can get all of the cheese grated inside the box grater at the same time. But especially on a warm day, you don't want all your pieces of butter sticking together. So make sure you're periodically stopping, especially if you're doing like a double batch of these. This recipe is going to make like 5 or 6 really nice sized biscuits. So I'm making sure to toss those individual pieces in the flour. Make sure you're paying attention to what you're doing. We always want to give cheese graters the respect of a blade. I talk about this a lot in our classes at the shop, that it's like peelers and cheese graters cause way more accidents in kitchens than knives. There we go. So now that I've got that all ready to go, this would be the time to add any additional internal garnish. Today I'm going to add a couple ounces of cheddar cheese, but you could also add like herbs or green onions or bacon. So again, still grating it. You don't want to get your dough where you want it and then decide to add in a garnish, because if you do that, it's going to be over mixed. You're going to end up with a tough biscuit. I've also used non-dairy cheese in making our biscuits and had really, really good success with them. Lovely. Make sure you're getting out all the stuff from the inside. So I'm going to toss that in here and make sure everything's nice and evenly coated, evenly distributed. And then you're going to start to add in your half and half, or whatever your liquid is. You could use regular milk here if you're trying to make things a little bit lighter. You could use non-dairy milk, although if you're going to use non-dairy milk, like almond milk or cashew milk, you might want to use a little bit less. You might end up using like 5.5 ounces or 5 ounces rather than a full 6 ounces, because it doesn't have the fat content, so it's going to get absorbed, like it's wetter. It's a wetter product. You can also use heavy cream full on if you wanted to be really naughty. So I'm going to add in about half, and then I'm going to move it around to where I don't have any puddles. Getting that absorbed in. And then I'm going to add in the rest of it. So I do need to mix this. Like pie dough, everyone's always over mixing, and I find a lot of times with biscuits people undermix. What you want to do is make sure that you're developing the gluten within the flour enough so that it's going to give you the structure so that the biscuit can rise. If you undermix, you're going to have a really tender biscuit, but you're not going to get a lot of height. And if you overmix, you'll get plenty of height, but it'll be like a brick when you go to eat it. So I find like the sweet spot is usually like 10 to 15 folds, depending on how the dough looks. So to do that, we want to develop the gluten. So I'm not going to cut into it with the bench scraper. I'm going to get underneath and fold over and press down. Okay, get underneath. I'm literally folding the contents of the bowl in half and pressing it together. I don't like to dive right in with my hands because then you just end up with mittens. There's a lot of moisture on my bench scraper, so I'm going to make sure I'm getting all that stuff off. And then I can really start to get in there with my hands now that the dough is forming. So I'm still folding it in half, and I'm pressing down with the heel of my palm. Traditional bread kneading. Okay, down with the heel of my palm. You can see there's still, like it looks dry, but there's plenty of moisture in here. If I have a little dry stuff at the bottom, I kind of scoop that up and I'll put that on the inside, and that way while the dough is resting and all of the flour is hydrating, it'll hydrate the stuff in the middle too. I want to make sure I'm using every bit of what I measured out. One more for good measure. There we go. And then I'm going to shape it and wrap this bad boy up so that the dough can rest and the butter can chill and the dough can hydrate, like the rest of the dry ingredients can hydrate in there. So now that the dough has rested and chilled, we're going to go ahead and roll it or pat it out to be about 1 inch thick. Now for this, we're going to need a little bit of dusting flour and a little bit underneath your dough and then a little bit on top. Dusting your rolling pin doesn't really do much since they're usually made of wood, and I'm just gently rolling from the center and working my way out. Then you're going to cut straight up and down with your ring cutter. You're going all the way to the edge, just like you would with sugar cookies. You don't want to twist your cutter once you press down. It's going to lock in all those flaky layers that we've been trying to get. And you can re-roll your scraps. And then waste not, want not. Bake off these scraps. They're not going to be done at the same rate. But we don't want to waste such tasty dough. And then top them with a little bit of egg wash. That's going to help with color. Make sure you're only getting the tops. You don't want it to drip down the sides. I mean, you can see the flaky layers. Then I like to top them with a little bit more salt. If you have like a decorative fun table salt, sometimes you have like black lava salt, Himalayan pink salt, all the various kinds. Sort of that a little more kosher salt on top, since that's what most folks have in their home. And now these are going to go into the oven for at 375 to 400 degrees. I like a hotter temperature. I like that 400-degree temperature. And they're going to go in for about 15 minutes. What we're looking for is that the biscuits are done on the inside. So the structure is set, but they're still moist. Underbaked is going to give you a really dense biscuit. Overbaked, and they're going to stale out on you really fast. So we'll get these in, and then I'll be back with you shortly. Thank you for joining us today to learn how to make biscuits. These ones turned out amazing, and I can't wait to eat them tonight for dinner with chili. It's like I say to all of my classes at the shop, just remember, the calories don't count if you made it yourself. My name's Katie Cook, and have a great day.